Apparently, people have been watching this video. I'll give it a chance. Don't know if this will be made into a video, but I am watching it on stream, so let's talk about it.
It's easy. Have you ever looked at them? White man just...
Ruckus, how could you possibly love white people so much?
It's easy. Have you ever looked at them? White man just a joy to be around. They smell like lemon juice and pledge furniture cleaner. And look at them. They gave us discipline, jobs, put structure in our lives, took us out the jungle.
Damn, Thomas Sowell getting some shots. Everybody else I agree with.
And what we do to show our appreciation. We march up and down the street. We vote. Carry on.
Oh, speed.
Ingrates.
Look, I don't know if you heard, but racism is officially over. It only took 4 centuries of state violence, exploitation, and mass incarceration, but we finally did it. Look, just don't celebrate too loud now, all right? They'll call it ghetto and unruly. This channel became dedicated to Black media analysis because of my obsession with Black art and entertainment. And I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but it's because it's damn near impossible to separate racial politics from how we as Black people interact.
The editing is pretty good.
With media. It doesn't matter what form it takes, be it music, film, dance, poetry, hell, even something as simple as streaming or podcasting. Every single expression of Black media is shaped and contextualized by racial politics, whether or not that was the creator's intention and whether or not the audience even notices it on the surface. And I keep hammering this point in my videos.
It kind of is. It does seem like a lot of Black media, it has like this underlying theme regarding like this, the Black experience, the Black personhood, and the Black message. So it's interesting that is the case. Creating something that is purely in itself a story beyond the identity doesn't happen as often. Shout out Ordeal. I think it's really good. And Gotcha Akuda has some really good, where it's like beyond, it becomes beyond, not about like the racial politics. That's interesting.
Because acknowledging that reality isn't just important, it's inescapable. These politics don't just shape our art, they shape us. They affect how we...
But even Ordeal is not Black American. It's some other country. I just don't know.
Move, how we operate, how we present ourselves, and even how we succeed. And that success is never neutral. It's directly tied to the implicit roles you're boxed into as a Black person in our media landscape. Even those roles aren't wide open. They come with boundaries as a Black person in our...
What kind of Black person are you? The angry troublemaker often complains about the status quo of America. This is a threat. The passionately compliant may not complain as much, but still does not directly challenge this is safe. There's in between. I'm in between. So I'm going to give my honest thoughts about this video, because I do think sometimes I don't really talk about a lot of like the Black experience in depth. At the very least, from my perspective. I'm not saying that I'm the hallmarker of what is and what isn't, but I will provide a different perspective. So there is an in between. I'm in between. I criticize and I talk about the Black experience pretty thoroughly. I'm an Uncle Tom Black person. W self-reflection.
Our media landscape. Even those roles aren't wide open. They come with boundaries, expectations, and a silent set of rules. You end up walking a really scary tightrope, one that forces you to balance your authenticity against white comfort. Lean too far into...
No, like, I'm not... Okay, so I always have to... You know what? What I usually do when I'm doing an analysis is I try to think of like the broader narrative that is being talked about and trying to make sure that it's generally applicable to common understood tropes, right? For this video in particular, I'm going to apply it to myself. And the reason why is I do think my perspective can be valuable in the overarching conversation. I've been called that for being conservative. I've probably been called Uncle Tom at some point. I've been called like too white as well, you know? But I'm also been called the N-word by people in my chat.
Honesty and you're branded angry, radical, or ungrateful. Pull back too much and you're seen as safe, at the expense of hollowing yourself out to fit inside an acceptable comfort zone. So what do you do when you're in that position?
Generally, this does apply to people, but it doesn't apply to me. I'm not called too safe, and nor am I called angry. I'm called very articulate and very smart, and I understand what I'm talking about. there's a way to kind of approach it beyond the quorums of what society's determining for you, and I decide of myself who I am. So it's trying to kind of getting beyond like the black identitarianism that exists.
As a black person navigating these spaces? Do you play by the rules, sanding yourself down just enough to fit in? Or do you push back and risk being branded as too extreme? Well,
there's an in between. I do neither, to be honest. I don't go out with extreme black pride. I know people who do, and shout out to them. That's just not me. Nor do I sanitize myself to where I'm like too white. I be talking to business people and still talk how I feel. I say things that are a little bit more slingish, a little bit more cultured. I'd say things like "peep, what's good? How you feeling?" You feel me? I say things normally, and then I could be super articulate and talk more intelligently than most white people, you know. So I'm freaking wearing a do-rag in this stream. I am myself and I am who I am. So yeah, that doesn't really apply to me.
there's always a third option, one that pays well, works every time, and never
I mean, I haven't been called. I think I've been called a coon before because I didn't agree with some guy who's super pro-black.
fails to get applause. That's right, kids. You can be a
What?
So the only three tropes are coon, being extremely pro-black, or being like, I don't know, very like white black. I don't know. I just don't think these are the only options. I think it's ridiculous to even consider these the only option. Candace Owens being the poster child for this is crazy, by the way.
Americans do not know how to resolve basic conflicts.
being a is an easy way to secure a bag. It's the oldest hustle in the book. Trade your people's dignity for a seat at the table, even if that seat is just for show. And in a media landscape where white comfort is currency, nothing pays better than telling racist white folks exactly what they want to hear and showing them exactly what they want to see.
I want to tell every single African-American person that's watching this video, you are not oppressed. Do not believe the lie.
Yeah, Tatum definitely fits in that category. I'm not gonna lie. He definitely fits in that category for sure.
You are not a victim. You are a victor.
And that's why it's important to be precise here, because it isn't just an insult we throw at another black person we don't like or disagree with. It has a very specific meaning. Is a black person who deliberately performs or promotes harmful stereotypes about their own community, not out of ignorance or passivity, but as a deliberate act to gain approval, protection, or profit from white audiences and institutions. It doesn't matter the decade or the time period. White institutions rewarded white audiences and institutions. It doesn't matter the decade.
Obviously, I know Candace. I don't know who this is. This is Thomas Sowell. Some things I agree with Thomas Sowell, some things I don't. Would I call him a coon? I don't know. I haven't absorbed enough of his information to make that claim definitively.
Or the time period. White institutions rewarded, white audiences eat it up, and the system is built to amplify it. It's effective because it props up the same lies that keep racism alive, validating and entertaining racism while reassuring those in power that nothing really needs to change.
Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi. From
Ain't no fucking way this guy. Oh no, that's crazy.
every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will.
Oh, I was gonna say something crazy. Oh, I love my jokes. I was about to say something crazy. I'll keep it to myself.
Be able to speed up that day for all of your children.
That's why it's so damn profitable.
Wow, here's the problem right here. You watch this crap. I felt like reacting to it. You trying to censor me, Sean? Trying to censor me? I can't watch whatever I want to watch. I was curious beyond the video. Simple as that. Stop censoring me.
So long as racism exists, so will it. But that's what simultaneously makes it so dangerous. Because every time a tap dances and performs, it doesn't just reflect on them, it reflects on all of us. Their words and actions become ammunition.
Jason Whitlock is good. Jason Whitlock. Cooked. Hey, can we throw in Stephen A? Nah, let me chill. Oh, fuck. I accidentally pushed the tab on something.
That day for all of your children.
That's why it's so damn profitable. So long as racism exists, so will it. But that's what simultaneously makes it so dangerous, because every time a tap dances and performs, it doesn't just reflect on them, it reflects on all of us.
My thing is just not feeling me. Think I'm feeling you. Full screen, buddy. All right. Refresh.
We will be able to speed up that day for all of your children.
That's why it's so damn profitable. So long as racism exists, so will it. But that's what simultaneously makes it so dangerous, because every time a tap dances and performs, it doesn't just reflect on them, it reflects on all of us. Their words and actions become ammunition, recycled as proof that racism is exaggerated or that black struggle is self-inflicted. And since so much of depends on white approval, it almost always gravitates towards conservatism, the politics most invested in pretending racism is over and inequality is just about personal responsibility.
You know that white supremacy and white nationalism is ranks nowhere near the top of the issues that are facing Black America. And the reason that you are bringing them up in this room is because it is attempt to make the election all about race as a Democrat.
Not in my case. That's what makes a so valuable to white.
He kind of has the point there. Of course, it will capitulate to conservatives who do believe in that kind of ideology, as well as the being filled with white people. So that's a fair point.
Audiences, they get to see a black face echo their talking points back at them, wrapping white comfort in black credibility. The more that caricature circulates, the more it solidifies until it hardens into policy, into prejudice, and into everyday justifications for inequality. It isn't just self-destructive, it's collective collateral damage. The individual cashes the check, but the community pays the price. Be it
individual cashes the check, the community pays the price. They do kind of prop these individuals up as speaking for the truths of the black community because it's coming from one of their own. That is a very, very enforceable tactic. And sometimes these very problematic figures represent the whole, which is also extremely problematic. It's like the same principle of like Vivek Ramaswamy representing all Indian people, right?
minstrelsy or political pundits, we've always looked down on the folks who choose to perform like this, and for good reason. But
I saw my girl
or
there.
political pundits, we've always looked down on the folks.
Oh, Stephen A is here. Stephen A is here. Oh yeah, you can't see it. Hold on. Stephen A. So Thomas Sowell, Stephen A, Candace. I don't know who this is. She got put here too. She's the conservative. I think she's kind of MAGA. So unfortunately, she's kind of bad though. I'm not gonna lie.
Who choose to perform like this, and for good reason. But
I think some of those guys I did not recognize. But
what do you do in a digital age where these bad faith actors aren't confined to a single stage but endless screens? What can you even do? Wait, combat this like that? Why beat them when you can just join them? Being a is easier than ever before.
It's 2018 in America.
What is MAGA?
Does racism exist? Absolutely not. And it has never existed.
Whoa!
Racism never existed. Beta.
It has never. It's
Wait, whoa!
It's a made-up word.
People jump so quick and they tend.
Oh yeah, this guy. Is he defending Nick Fuentes? This guy's a fucking bootlicker. Jesus Christ.
So at the thought of racial profiling, it's so wrong. It's so wrong. What is marketing? It's profiling.
I hate this guy so much. Not only is he black, but he's gay. He's the worst type. Oh, he's helping their cause so much. He is a very, very useful tool.
That's what marketing is.
White supremacy
Of course you think Jesse Lee's the best. Of course you do.
and the KKK. Really? That's what you guys want me to be concerned with this week? Do I look like an idiot?
As long as racism is...
Hey man, don't go in certain parts of the South thinking a lot of that. You know what I'm saying?
It's profitable. There will always be a demand for some eager, happy-go-lucky Negro willing to sell it.
Okay, King Batch though, like, okay, I get everybody else. Stephen A, sure. Candace, sure. Thomas Sowell, I understand. King Batch? What did King Batch do? What did King Batch do to be called a coon, bro? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Back with a smile. Playing into negative racial tropes is one of the fastest ways to get paid. But that money doesn't come free. With it comes the cost of harming your own people, alienating yourself from your community, or worst of all, selling your own dignity.
Are you saying he's one too? Or is this just a meme?
With that being said, whip out your tap dancing shoes and get ready to dive in. And together, let's find out if all the wealth, fame, and influence is worth the price of self-respect.
Other folks talking about save me.
The price of self-respect. Self-respect, I think, is important. It's different from pride. I respect myself, so I do things that I feel like doing because I think they're important. All right, let's diagnose this. Let's see.
Wasn't nothing wrong with slavery. At least
I don't
we
believe
got
in
good
pride.
food back then.
As usual, before we get started, let's establish something. I want to further clarify our definition of what makes it and why it's not always the same thing as a black person being conservative. As
Bro, all these words I'm just not reading. I like the editing, but all these smaller words I'm not reading. I'm not pausing every time you have these smaller words. I'm just not reading them.
I'm sure there's some black conservatives out there just waiting to pounce on this video and cry with the whole independent thinker spiel. Being black and conservative doesn't by default make you a right there being a hell of a lot of overlap between the two. The difference lies in intent and performance. There's a lot of black folks that favor conservative politics out of ingrained survival. Centuries of this nation's history have taught us that black dissent, resistance, or even just demanding equity is often met with brutal repression in both violence and policy. For some, leaning into conservatism,
Yeah, sure, but also a large part of like a lot of people who are black and conservative is in part due to the Christian beliefs and Christian value system. That is much more associated with conservatism versus liberalism.
is less about selling out and more about seeking safety, stability, or trying to navigate a system that punishes resistance. Mind you, this logic is still extremely counterproductive and harmful. There isn't any reputable data that shows that conservative policies benefit Black Americans economically.
Welfare reform in the mid 2000s, how Africans in 3 cities are faring. Conservative. I mean, subsection, it helps certain sections of Black Americans, but not completely. There's more nuance to that point.
Or socially on any mass scale, it just denotes how some of it can still come from a place of good faith. But deliberately performs or promotes harmful narratives about their...
I wouldn't call out all of Black conservatism. I think like take out the MAGA sector, there can be some like good values from Black conservatism. Like real Black conservatism, not like MAGA. They're just crazy
people, not because they believe it in good faith, but because it buys them approval, protection, or profit from white audiences and institutions. They're not just conservative, they're performers. They're actively putting on a show, embodying roles that serve oppressive systems while personally benefiting them. It all boils down to their intent and performance. It's deliberate, it's a show, it reinforces racist myths, and most importantly, it's transactional. The individual trades dignity and community for validation and reward. That's not survival. That's a spineless, shameless spectacle. A spectacle that, as we're about to see, has no universal form. To kick us off, we're going to dive into the main archetypes that like to perform, exploring not just how and why they're so lucrative, but how they ultimately do nothing more than benefit white supremacy at the end of the day. Look at it.
Damn, he's calling Speed a coon.
Cash in your dignity for a few coins and a milkshake? Want to make white folks laugh and hate you at the same time? Don't worry, I've got just the right pair of white gloves for you.
Enough is enough, and that's what I've had.
Are you saying that like people can't make? Hopefully, he's not saying that anytime you make content, you can't make it for white people as a subsection or part of the section. Like, I'm curious to see how this goes because one of the things I really don't like
every
entire races of people
a mask that makes them profitable and entertaining to white audiences. And while there are many variations, the two most consistent archetypes are the jester and the knight. Different masks, same purpose. Whether they clown or crusade, both archetypes ultimately serve the same role, and that's reassuring white audiences that racism...
What is wrong with King Badge, bro? Because he does okay,
is either laughable or non-existent. First, we have the jester, the oldest and most recognizable archetype of the entertainer who survives by making a spectacle of themselves, often at the expense of their own people. At its root, the jester is a performer.
Yeah, this is crazy. I agree. This is crazy. This will be This would be animal. This would be not animal behavior, but this would be wrong behavior. Okay.
Who embodies and exaggerates racist caricatures so that white audiences can laugh, feel at ease, and avoid confronting the realities of Black life. And this figure isn't new. It stretches back to the minstrel shows of the early 19th century, where white performers would don blackface and prance around the stage mocking blackness, painting it as ignorant, lazy, and buffoonish. You know, a real staple of American culture. White folks just couldn't get enough of this shit. I don't know, it was like the 19th century version of Friends. Around the 1830s, we get Thomas Daddy Rice, who popularizes his character Jim Crow, a shuffling, grinning, broken English caricature of a rural black man. A caricature Rice himself loosely based on a disabled slave he had once seen. The caricature would soon become a symbol for Black inferiority, so powerful and popular that the name itself would later be used to brand an entire system of segregation. But alongside Jim Crow, you also had Zip Coon, only this one was based on a city living dandy. While Jim Crow was a lazy, sloppy buffoon, Zip Coon was a ridiculous fraud. He was overdressed, misused big words, and worst of all, thought of himself as equal to white people. The joke was
interesting. This is history that I do find interesting. I never really looked into where the term coon comes from. This is interesting.
That no matter how hard he tried, he could never rise above his place. These two became the blueprint of the jester. You now have a role where a Black figure exists only to reassure white audiences that Blackness is inherently laughable, inferior, and unserious. From the very beginning, the jester wasn't just about entertainment, it was about control. Eventually, Black performers themselves are pushed into these roles, forced to mock their own people just to gain access to stages otherwise closed to them. The costume changes with the decades, but the script remains the same. You see the
Yeah. Interesting.
jester morph into Hollywood on the big screen with Stepin Fetchit and Willie Best.
What's your name? Dip on the... Yeah, fine, bro.
There's something to worry about if you white. What you mean? They won't hurt us because we slaves. They ain't fighting for...
I mean, we know racism obviously existed back then. To acquire a level of fame, you would have to kind of take into the roles that the people of power kind of input you, which is also why typecasting was so definitely racist for a very, very long time. So makes sense why people were willing to do these roles to acquire a certain level of notoriety and fame, maybe even wealth. You only could be so upset on like why people were able to or were willing to do these roles. You could definitely say they're lacking self-respect for it. I mean, it's not something I would do. I'm just saying what I do.
But if you white and felon, then you the enemy. Oh, don't pay him no mind. Don't show them getting that high.
On radio with Amos and Andy, and even in variety shows with Rochester Anderson.
Kingfish, you mean to say that you is an actual doctor?
Well, I ain't been blabbing it around, but I've been taking a correspondence course in doctoring.
He's the funny Black friend, the clownish entertainer, the loudmouth comic relief who eases racial tension with jokes and dance moves. Different eras, different packaging, but the function never changes. Blackness was safe only when it was a punchline. Black people are tolerated as long as they keep the jokes coming and never demand too much seriousness. Today, the jester thrives in the digital era. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, entire careers are built around parroting Black culture for white clicks. Sometimes he leans into exaggerated AAVE or quote-unquote hood stereotypes for laughs. Other times he positions himself as the safe Black person who it's okay to make racist.
Damn. So that is what he's doing here.
Interesting. Jokes around. You want an N-word pass? Don't worry, he'll give you one.
The league, what is he like? He got a pass the league off hold? Yo, come on, man. Bo Ray, don't give a fuck.
Damn. Shit.
Nigga, please.
He might even make fun of real issues such as police brutality or systemic inequality, as if centuries of oppression, violence, and pain are nothing more than material for a punchline. It's how we get King Batch making an entire career off of chicken, watermelon, and crime jokes.
For a bottle of lotion a day, you can help these ashy African American children. Please call that.
I made that hood, baby.
Okay. So it's coming off of entertainers playing on to like the kind of biggest Black tropes. And making a career. I've always said this. I was like, I do think it is pretty low effort to kind of play the recycled Black black jokes, like easily racist jokes, stereotypical black behavior. I think that is like overutilized at this point in big 2025, and I think it's pretty weak. It can be humorous. I'm fine with making fun of anybody and everybody, but it is interesting. It is interesting that this guy is basically saying all these content creators playing into their black identity are coons. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't call them coons. I think that's kind of I think that's kind of ridiculous calling these people coons. Sometimes people just either just like have fun with it and they just don't take it seriously. There's no like evil intent behind that, but that's just me.
For the next 12 hours, all crime is legal.
Today's a good day.
It's how you get IShowSpeed barking like an animal while also letting his non-black fans call him and make racial jokes at his expense.
What's this? It's a cotton. Look, cotton? I never got gifted cotton. Why did you give me cotton? Yeah.
Like Speed has not been a good role model at all. He's just like a wild character. And if you're going to a different country, you're gonna wild out on a different country. I don't know. I feel like when it comes to analyzing a problem, there's always has to be like a solution attached to it. And my assumption is that he believes Speed kind of acting like an animal should stop and should call out more people who are racist to him in other countries. I think he thinks Kai should do the same thing. King Batch should stop making his. I just don't. I mean, I hear you. I just don't know if I'm going as far as calling these people coons for it. I think. I don't know.
You get taxed.
I have a lot of issues with Speed, and I hate streamer culture.
Come here, motherfucker! Master, I'm tired of picking cotton. Please give me another job.
That's how you get all these tomfoolery ass niggas on TikTok eating food in a messy manner while dancing like chimpanzees.
But like other people do that too. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like we're kind of reaching. I think it's cringe. Hey, don't get me wrong. I think it's cringe. I have issues with streamer culture. All of that exists. Maybe I agree with his solution. It's just maybe I disagree with his characterization.
Hell, this nigga is literally calling himself the grooving gorilla. You cannot get any more on the nose than this. It doesn't matter the variant or the medium. In every form, the jester's job is to turn blackness into a spectacle. He makes racism easier to consume because it's coated in laughter. And that is why he works. The jester works because he makes racism feel good. He doesn't challenge the audience, he comforts them. Instead of forcing white American audiences to face the ugly reality of racism and systemic inequality, the jester flips those realities into comedy. Pain becomes parody, suffering becomes slapstick. The cruelty of anti-blackness is softened, wrapped in laughter, and handed back as entertainment.
These are good points. These are good points.
Audience can consume stereotypes without guilt because at the end of the day, it's all just a joke. But just a joke is exactly what makes it powerful. Laughter.
I still believe in joke telling, but I do think the consistent manner could soften the realities a little bit, especially if they're never brought up.
Arms. When racism comes dressed as comedy, it doesn't feel like hate, it feels like permission. You're not laughing at black people, you're laughing with them. You get a pass. Hell, after all, the black guy telling you the joke wants you to laugh. White audiences can laugh at caricatures of blackness without guilt because humor provides cover. And that thin veil of irony makes the jester effective, turning mockery into entertainment and entertainment into normalization. But the jester is only one side of the coin. We then have the knight. Well, one is an entertainer, the other is an enforcer. Unlike the jester, the knight doesn't play for laugh, instead aligning themselves with whiteness and defending the very systems that harm their own people. They're the moral enforcer, preaching discipline, respectability, and obedience. If the jester reassures white audiences that blackness is laughable, the knight reassures them that the real problem isn't racism, it's other black people and their culture. Just as minstrelsy created the blueprint for the jester, the knight was born from slavery itself. On the plantation, you had slaves that were elevated above others, not out of kindness or merit, but as a tool of control, being rewarded with scraps of comfort for loyalty and used to police other enslaved people. You begin to see the earliest form of the knight, a black figure whose very survival depended on protecting the master's interests. After emancipation, this role transforms. White elites paraded formerly enslaved people who praised their masters as benevolent, framing bondage as a civilizing institution. For example, pro-slavery writers like John B. Gordon and James Henry Hammond eagerly published quote-unquote testimonies from freedmen claiming slavery had been a blessing. You also had figures of black colonization movements like John B. Russwurm and William Hannibal Thomas, who assured whites that black freedom meant separation, not equality. And on the more extreme end, you had physicians like Samuel A. Cartwright, who promoted pseudoscience like drapetomania, the idea that a slave wanting to be free is a form of mental illness. He relied on black collaborators to validate.
I respect the history lesson. I didn't know that. I respect the history lesson. I do find this very interesting, especially the mental illness part, because I think this can be extrapolated to how a lot of people current diagnoses.
His false claims about black laziness and inferiority. Those early versions of the knights were nothing more than useful prompts. They told white audiences exactly what they wanted to hear, that racial hierarchy was natural, just, and even divinely ordained. By the time we get to the 20th century, the knight evolves into the voice of respectability politics. You see it in figures like Bill Cosby and Shelby Steele, who, while groundbreaking in some ways, also doubled as the poster child for middle-class assimilation, embodying the idea that accepting black humanity depended on proper dress, diction, and morality. In politics, you get Clarence Thomas and Thomas Sowell, two uncles whose influence came not from serving black communities, but from reassuring white conservatives. Thomas used the Supreme Court to gut civil rights protections under the guise of colorblindness, while Sowell built a career downplaying racism and blaming inequality on black culture and behavior. And in popular media, you often see the knight as a direct foil to the jester, the serious preacher, the disciplinarian father figure, the bootstrap philosopher who scolds poor black people while ignoring the systemic barriers.
I mean, I do think there's a level. It's always a multifaceted problem in terms of fixing like what's going on in the black community. Accepting the way we operate is also very important. Denying it, I think, is foolish. But the other side of the spectrum is dismissing the factors that play, such as the history, such as the powers to be. It's crazy. There's always nuance, but
against them. Today, the knight thrives as a commentator. He's the black conservative pundit on Fox News, PragerU, and the Daily Wire. He assures white America that police brutality is blown out of proportion, that systemic racism isn't real, and that black people are simply victims of their own bad choices.
Stop resisting arrest. I don't know how many times we got.
This is a very good point on like what these people allow, what these people create in terms of the black narrative. It's a very good point.
I say that. I don't know why people aren't getting it. We shouldn't even be having conversations about police. There's no such thing as police reform in any of.
That's just a fucking ridiculous thing to say. There's no such thing as black reform. Is just objectively stupid.
These things. If you people, black people, white people, I don't care who you are, mostly it's black folks. Why are we going to reform the police department just to end up shooting you again because you were resisting arrest, trying to run police officers over with cars? I don't know if do y'all think bullets cannot hurt you?
Is there a big problem with police brutality and black people? No, there's not. Not from my point of view.
He's the YouTube grifter lecturing.
It's just a ridiculous statement to make. Ridiculous statement.
About quote unquote black fatigue and how ghetto blacks are going to get us all killed.
These black people are really struggling and they're turning into these maniacs. It seems like they don't do anything right. They're obnoxious, they're rude, they're inconsiderate, aggressive, cruel.
I mean, I don't think he said anything racist. He didn't denigrate. He said, this is why people feel
He
that
just
way
described
based
the
on
other
these
race of
things.
people. He described this. Not black people.
I mean,
I think there's a big difference. I think that I've met a lot of black people and I've met a lot of this.
He's even the LinkedIn style.
Oh my goodness. Seeing people fucking cape for Nick Fuentes is crazy. He thinks black people are inherently more dumb, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's right." Okay, you're helping out his claim. You know what I'm saying?
Black excellence influencer preaching that systemic racism can be conquered with enough hustle and positivity. Doesn't matter what he wears, it can be a suit or a hoodie. The performance is the same. The Knight positions himself as proof that Black success is possible if you just follow the rules, and if you don't, well, that's your fault. His job isn't to liberate his people, it's to discipline them on behalf of the system. The Knight works because he cloaks anti-Blackness in dignity. Where the jester weaponizes laughter, the Knight weaponizes morality. He doesn't need to make white audiences laugh, he makes them feel righteous. By wagging his finger at Black communities, he reassures white America that inequality isn't structural, it's personal. Racism doesn't have to be confronted because the Knight insists the real problem is us. And that's the trick. He allows racism to hide in plain sight. If the jester tells white audiences, you're not racist, it's just a joke, then the Knight tells them, you're not racist, you're right. Every inequality becomes immoral. It's just a joke. Then the Knight.
All right. So this point, I do think there's a lot of validity. I do think as of right now, the insinuate that all people that are like Batch or Kai or Speed or intentionally creating content to capitulate to white people, I think is kind of disingenuous. I think they are playing up stereotypes that they live their whole life with and just having fun with it. There could be factors of them intentionally just doing this for a white audience, but I think that's a little aggressive to call them that. Now, are they accomplishing a role? I think you can make that argument. I do think that you can make the argument that they're accomplished a role. I think you can expand that, to be honest, to like Black music artists as well. Certain Black comedians. I think you can expand that, but I would not call these people coons by any means. I think that's a little aggressive. I think he's spot on in terms of the enforcers, though. I think his assessment on like enforcers making white people feel righteous is very, very clear. Now, I do think that there needs to be a level of like Black individual responsibility that should be brought to the table of the conversation. But I do think that gets overblown. Like that's the only thing that can solve it. I think the majority has to be kind of rewrapping perspective of Black communities and rewrapping the systems in play to uplift Black communities.
Tells them, you're not racist, you're right. Every inequality becomes a morality tale. Prisons are full not because of over-policing, but because Black men lack quote-unquote values. Schools fail not because of gutted funding, but because Black parents don't care enough. Poverty isn't the product of wage theft or housing discrimination, it's just laziness. The Knight takes systemic violence and translates it into wage theft. Now it becomes it's just a joke. Then the Knight tells them, you're not racist, you're right. Every inequality becomes a morality tale. Prisons are full not because of over-policing, but because Black men lack quote-unquote values.
Some sectors are over policing. The over policing conversation is a very interesting, nuanced one.
Schools fail not because of gutted funding, but because Black parents don't care enough. Poverty isn't the
nuanced
product of wage theft or housing discrimination, it's just laziness. The Knight takes.
I think that there's no way you can make the argument it's laziness. It is definitely more systematic, the last one.
Systemic violence and translates it into individual failings, making oppression look earned and deserved. Now, these two types of may seem like polar opposites, but both the Jester and the Knight serve the same court. They divide the work of maintaining the racial order. The Jester turns injustice into entertainment, making it easier to laugh at than confront. The Knight takes the same injustice and recasts it as a moral failing, assuring audiences that inequality is the product of bad choices, not bad systems. Together, they work in tandem, softening the blow and then justifying it. 1 minute you laugh, next minute you're nodding your head in agreement. And this duality survives because it's profitable and useful. Media platforms, corporations, and political institutions reward content that either entertains without threatening power or dignifies inequality as discipline. That's why the Jester thrives in viral clips and comedy routines, while the Knight is elevated in op-eds, think tanks, and news commentary. Both are monetized, both are incentivized, and both are rewarded precisely because they stabilize the racial order rather than challenge it. The impact is real. That distortion of public perception shapes policy. When the Jester normalizes brutality and the Knight reframes systemic barriers as personal failings, the result is paralysis. No need to reform and no appetite for justice. In practice, this translates into underfunded schools, harsher policing, and the erosion of civil rights, all justified by the story that Black suffering is either laughable or deserved. In the end, it's just like we said earlier, two sides of the same coin. One makes oppression palatable, the other makes it principled. Neither disrupt the system. And until the structures that reward these performances are dismantled, both will keep tap dancing to the bank. But identifying only take you so far. Let's say you see the harm, damage, and destruction this causes, and none of that phases you. In fact, you see how lucrative it is and want to make some money off of it. Well, you morally bankrupt motherfucker, I have just the news for you. This next section is going to teach you exactly how to sell your soul. I'm going to teach you step by step.
All right. Well, I think that's all. I'm good. I understand the sentiment. I'm curious if at the end of the video he gives a alternative way Black people should kind of move on in their life, or is it more of just an analysis on people he thinks are acting in the not good interests of Black people? Not sure, but shout out. That's all I got for today. 5 hours straight, man. I am not a streamer. I am already pretty good. But that's all I got. I appreciate everybody tuned in. Y'all have a good one. Take care. Peace.